What's up, guys? How's it going? Thank you so much for waiting for me. Let's do this. Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levi, and Derrick Lewis just went out there, knocked out Alexei Oleinik. And I guess the big talking point was that he survived that bulldog choke, that schoolyard headlock, or as Derrick Lewis likes to call it, that British bulldog, man. He had me laughing when he called it that. So I feel like it's a situation where he doesn't really care to stuff the takedown, but at the same time, when you're on top of him, he doesn't panic either, kind of just relaxes, looks for his opening to get out. And it honestly was kind of impressive that he escaped that because, I mean, Alexei's tapped plenty of other people with that schoolyard headlock before. I mean, Mirko Krokop comes to mind. And also just when he gets the squeeze on people, he was going for that Ezekiel choke too. And Derrick Lewis was doing his thing, man. So it was good to see. And when he got on top, I mean, you already know the deal. When it's Derrick Lewis's turn to answer, lands huge shots, and obviously that Black Beast blitz, you already know the deal. So awesome to see Derrick Lewis get another big win. And I believe that he has the most knockouts in UFC heavyweight history now. So he passed Junior Cigano. He passed Cain Velasquez and anyone else who might have been at the top of that list. So that was pretty awesome to see. Alexei Oleinik, I mean, it wasn't like it was a bad performance or anything by his part. He was just outweighed by about 38 pounds. And, you know, Black Beast was the better man tonight. So just got to give it to him on that one. Who do we want to see him with next? I mean, I feel like it's a situation where, you know, he's in the top 15. And I'm going to pull up the rankings. But before I do that, I feel like he's a guy that you just want to see him with every single heavyweight in the top 15 before it's all said and done. I mean, we've already seen him in there with Junior Cigano. We've already seen him in there with Francis Ngannou. Did I say Junior Ngannou? I meant to say Junior Cigano, but Francis Ngannou. We've seen him in there with Volkov. We've seen him in there with everyone. So the one guy that we haven't seen him in there with is Alistair Overeem. Are y'all down for a matchup like that? I feel like Overeem might be fighting Sakai next, and not to look past Sakai, who I actually have been, you know, somewhat impressed with, and I've picked him in most of his fights. But I kind of feel like that might be a fight that Overeem can win, you know. And if Overeem can get past Sakai, why not Overeem versus Black Beast? That's one that we haven't seen in a long time. Brian is suggesting, what about Derrick versus the JDS Jairzinho winner? If JDS wins, I mean, we've already seen it. I mean, I'm down for a rematch. Why not? But I feel like the Jairzinho one, you know, that's another fresh matchup. So for me, like, I guess what I'm thinking is fresh matchups for Black Beast, just so that by the time it's all said and done, he'll have fought, you know, everybody in the top 15 already. So, you know, if I go off the actual top 15, which I just pulled up, okay, so he hasn't been in there with the champ Stipe. He's been in there with the number one contender Cormier. He's been in there with Francis Ngannou. He hasn't been in there with Curtis Blades, but I personally don't want to see that because, you know, I don't want to see my boy get humped. And he's number 4. Number 5, Junior Cigano, he's been in there with. He hasn't been in there with number 6 or number 7, Jairzinho, Rosenstryker, Alistair Overeem. Been in there with number 8, Alexander Volkov. Hasn't been in there with number 10, Alexei. Hasn't been in there with Sakai or Walt Harris. But honestly, I feel like he's beyond a Sakai or a Walt Harris at this point. And he's already been in there with Shamil Abdurakhimov. So, again, I'm going back to the well. I want to see him either with Alistair Overeem or Jairzinho Rosenstrike. I feel like those are the fresh matchups for Derrick Lewis. And as far as Alexei Oleinik, I mean, you know, there's a bunch of stuff you can do with him. You can do Augusto Sakai after, you know, if he loses to Alistair Overeem. I mean, that's number 9 and number 10. You can do something like that. Oh yeah, he already fought Walt Harris. So yeah, there's a lot of options. I mean, if who's Gane fighting again? Is Gane still fighting Abdurakhimov, or did he get another fight? Because I know Gane has been doing his thing. So how good's Gane looked lately? I want to see what he looks like versus. I mean, damn, he looked pretty damn good versus Tanner Boser too, and he's been going out there heel hooking these guys, and he's, you know, supposed to be this kickboxer. So that part's pretty cool. You guys know that I'm not doing this live stream without drinking some water. You already know the deal. So, Brian, I appreciate the question, man. And I think you're right on point. It should be either Jairzinho or Overeem for Derrick Lewis next. So, and then with Oleinik, already said the deal. So, co-main event of the evening, Chris Weidman defeated Omari Akhmadov. You know, at the time, I was kind of pissed because I bet on Akhmadov at dog money. I think if you heard my breakdown, you kind of know how I feel, and you also know I put my money where my mouth is, and it is what it is. So I thought that, maybe Omari gasses by the third round, but man, he gassed in the second round. It's like, man, you gassed a round too early, and he gave the first round to Weidman too. But in hindsight, I feel like, man, Weidman wins the first round of every fight pretty much, even the ones he loses. So I should have put more stock into that. But I got to say this, I'm not convinced Weidman's back at all, you guys. I still think that, man, I feel like he could have retired tonight off that win. But back to what I was talking about, that delusion of the long-range champion, he's saying he wants to get in there with top 5 guys after that. I'm like, Chris, no, like, please, let's not do that. Like, you barely got past Omari. And granted, barely getting past Omari is better than I thought he was going to do, because I thought he was going to get knocked out. I thought that he was going to get out-hustled. So the fact that he at least outworked Omari, that still exceeded my expectations, even though everyone else thinks he looked like shit, which he did look like shit. But the fact that he wasn't unconscious, surpassed my expectations. So, good on Chris. But, I also thought he should have retired after the Gastelum fight. So, it's not really in my control, when he decides to hang him up. So it looks like he wants to fight again. So as far as the rankings are concerned, I mean, you could do the Derek Brunson fight if you want to just go slightly outside the top 10, or excuse me, towards the latter part of the top 10 is what I'm trying to say. Because if you want to throw him in there with, the Yoel Romero rematch, if you want to put him in there with Jack Hermanson, with a Jared Cannonier, with a Whitaker, with a Paulo Costa, I think it's going to be another canvas nap. So, I mean, look, I'm down to see it, because, you know where my money's going to be. But if you want him to have another somewhat competitive matchup, and I'm not convinced he gets past Derek Brunson. So a couple of years ago, I think he would have, but at this point, I don't know. What do y'all think? You think he gets past Derek Brunson at this point with what y'all saw tonight? Because shit got sketchy. It was just like, man, Omari, do you have to be more gassed out than Chris right now? So, and I'll say this, Chris ate the shots better than I thought he would. And but one thing I didn't expect that was good on Omari's part was Omari was out there landing takedowns on Chris. I did not expect that to happen. So, man, it sucks that, for me at least, that Omari wasn't able to knock him out or out-hustle him. So props to Chris. He got a win. But, man, again, he's asking for top 10 guys. And I don't know. I don't think it's going to end well. I think he should have retired tonight. But as far as Omari is concerned, well, he didn't change his life tonight. So now it's just back to the same old fights you've been having this entire time. You know what I mean? It's back to the prelims, basically, because quite frankly, he messed up his big chance. If he would have went out here, beat the former champion, all of a sudden he is still undefeated at 185 pounds. Then he'd, maybe enter the top 10, and then it'd be another big fight next, because you guys know the deal. When you beat a former champion, I mean, regardless of what point in their career they're at, it always looks good for the resume. So Omari wasn't able to pull it off. So, props to Chris. Even in the state Chris is in, he was still able to beat Omari. So it's got to count for something. It looked like in that second round that it was about to end, but man, Chris hung in tough, and I was actually surprised. Like, I know Omari swings wild as it is, but I was surprised how wild. I feel like the hooks were a little too exaggerated in this fight. I feel like he gassed too quick, and you got to give credit to Weidman for that, though, because from the jump, even though Weidman wasn't able to get that early takedown, the fact that he was kind of making Omari work and make him carry his weight a little bit, make him think about the takedown. So by the time that Weidman actually was successful, I mean, he kind of, overwhelmed him in that first round a little bit. Second round, gassed out bad. It seemed like Omari was coming back. And then in the third round, Omari had nothing left. Chris got on top and edged it out. So respect to Chris Weidman. All right, what was the other fight? Darren Stewart and Maki Pitolo. So back-to-back L's I took here. I had Maki Pitolo here, and I did not expect a first-round submission by Darren Stewart, but let me look up Darren Stewart's record and see how many guillotines he's got, because maybe if he's got a couple, then I can, go back to the drawing board and feel like, hey, maybe you should have examined that part of his game a little more. But let's see. So from what I'm seeing, well, it says, okay, so that's his only career submission win. Okay, interesting. So you got to give him a lot of credit. I did not see that happening. But, man, it seemed to me like they were being super patient. They were kind of circling around each other a little bit. Mackie kind of cracked him with a shot that wobbled him. And then Mackie looked to mix it up, went for a takedown, left his head exposed, got caught with the guillotine, and it was a modified guillotine. And then he changed it to, I mean, officially it said it was a guillotine, but I feel like it might have been like a modified Darce. I didn't quite see the angle, but I saw him connect to his bicep, so that made me think it might have been a Darce. But I could be wrong there. But regardless, very opportunistic submission by Darren Stewart. Good job by him. Back on track. I mean, and officially, he's still on a win streak in the UFC. It's just that he had that little fight in Cage Warriors against Bartosz Fabinski. So that kind of, I wonder how they treat it, in terms of like the UFC matchmakers. Do they treat it like he's on a win streak still, or do they treat it like he's on a, just a one fight streak instead of a 3-fight? Because officially, he beat Deron Winn and Bavon Lewis before he took that Bartos loss in Cage Warriors. And for Mackie, I mean, I still think he looks a lot better at 85. This fight didn't really let me know anything because I wanted to see what happens if they go 3 rounds. I mean, he cracked him with a hard shot, then shot for a takedown and got choked out. So I guess we got to see him again to really determine. But man, I had some high expectations for Mackie, and he definitely let me down. So props to Darren Stewart there. Yana Kunitskaya, I mean, you guys already know the deal. It was armbar or bust for Julia, and Julia wasn't able to get it. So Yana did her thing. Let's take some questions here. What's up, Taylor? How's it going, man? Rob said Chris Wonderboy Weidman. I know in the first minute and a half of the fight, he was kind of doing that, side to side movement, the side kicks, the whole ordeal. But then once he gassed out, that shit was over with. So, but man, I guess him leaving Long Island for a little bit, going down there with Wonderboy and just having no distractions, that little bit just gave him enough of an edge to go out there and win the fight. So yeah, awesome. Let me see what else y'all got for me. Sorry, my shit, you guys already know the fucking deal. It'll randomly scroll down all the way, so you already know what's up. Rob Brown says, what's up? What's up, Rob Brown? Congrats on your W tonight. Me and Rob Brown were going against each other, and tonight he got the dub. So, I hate being on the opposite side and losing. So next time we're on the opposite side, I'm coming for that dub. All right, what's up, Shark? He says, great card. I'd give performance bonuses to Sanchez and Beneil, but they will probably give one to Lewis. And then fight of the night was Tucker versus James. That's an awesome fight. Well, they gave one to Sanchez and Tucker. Beneil obviously deserved one, but the thing is he missed weight, so he wasn't eligible. But the thing is, he might get something under the table. They'll definitely take care of Beneil. And for a guy like Beneil to miss weight, something must have been going on because that guy's a professional. He's had 18 fights in the UFC, first time ever missing weight. Highly doubt it was to get an advantage. I mean, Beneil's a badass. If you look at his resume, there's zero padding there whatsoever. Besides his debut against Charlie Brenneman, but still, Benny was 7-0 at the time or some shit. You know what I mean? So you're allowed to fight guys like that in your debut. But aside from that, it's been killer after killer. So I don't think that Benny was doing anything, looking for an advantage or any shit like that. I think that it might have been a slight miscalculation on his part, on the team's part. So something along those lines. Sparring with Reality says, great performance by Haqparast, but how tough is Munoz? Dude's got a chin and a half. Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State, D1 wrestler, the guy's definitely tough as hell, and he'll be back. It's just, when you're 6-0 and they throw you in there with Nasrat for your debut, it's man, too much too soon. And, I kind of feel like that original fight with Luis Pena was a little bit more suitable for him. I feel like that was the right fight to take in your debut, but unfortunately he pulled out. So now you got to fight Nasrat in his bounce back fight. And Nasrat looked brilliant. Man, they got to hire new strike counters for Fight Metric for DraftKings and shit. Cause y'all remember, okay, so before I talk about how it said he only landed 20 strikes in round 2, which I felt like he only landed 20 strikes in the first 30 seconds of round 2. You know what I mean? But the week prior in that John Martinez fight versus Frankie Saenz, they were saying some shit about how Frankie Saenz was outstriking him 22-7. I'm like, whoever's counting those strikes, please send me whatever you're smoking immediately. I need some of that in my life. You know what I mean? Because how the hell can you watch that Jonathan Martinez versus Frankie Saenz fight and look at me in the eyes with a straight face and tell me that that Frankie Saenz outstruck him at any point in that fight 22-7? So with this one, They at least counted about 100 significant strikes on Nasrat's part, but it looked more to me like 150, 160 significant strikes. Like, that was a clinic and a half. That was a beautiful performance. But yeah, Munoz, super tough guy. Can't wait to see what he does next. Let's take a step back. You're only 6-1. But you know how these guys are. He's a D1 wrestler, trains out of Alpha Male. Those guys are super tough. They'll fight anybody. And he definitely showed his toughness, definitely showed he belongs. So I can't wait to see what he does next. Fashionably late. You already know the deal, but never in doubt. I'm still here, always. All right. That shirt is fire, fam. I appreciate that, man. Brandon says, Derrick Lewis is the baddest blue belt in the world. Oh, yeah, is he a blue belt? That's what's up, man. Yeah, he survived that schoolyard headlock, and even though officially that move's not going to put someone to sleep, just the way it feels, and I hear Alexi's got a tremendous squeeze to a point. Like, it feels like your skull's about to be crushed, you know, like your head's about to explode. So I think that's pretty damn cool. And the fact that he escaped it, and the escape he did was pretty damn technical too. Like, when you're going for like a headlock like that, the way to escape it is to come out the back, and that's what he was able to do. Because when you're unsuccessful in getting a move like that, you actually can give up your back. So that's like the kind of, I guess, blessing and curse, or you know, whatever the case may be. You know, the pro and the con, right? So. Brian says, how about Big Mouth Holland? Yeah, he looked fucking amazing. People were actually shitting on that performance, and I feel like we might value different things, you know, and I'll tell you why. Because I think we can all agree that Joaquin Buckley was going out there and trying to take Kevin Holland's head off, right? So Joaquin Buckley was throwing bomb after bomb after bomb on Kevin Holland. And how many of those bombs would you say hit Kevin Holland clean in the face? I'd say like not many, right? Like, I'd say like maybe like 1 or 2 hit him clean in the face. Like, dude, that was a serious vet performance by Kevin Holland. Whenever Kevin Holland wanted to throw something, he'd rock him or drop him or do the whole bit. He was talking to him like that. I like that performance a lot. So now with him, I mean, with Holland, we can either drop the 70s. I mean, he weighed in at 183 pounds. I know he can definitely make 70s, and he might be a matchup problem at 70s with his size. I mean, you saw how much bigger he looked than Joaquin Buckley, and Buckley's a specimen, man. So, yeah, I was very impressed, more impressed than others were in that fight for sure. But again, you know, it's not about rushing him. You don't got to take quick steps. I know he already, you know, knocked out a guy like Jeff Neal, and you know, if he goes to the 70s, he might start fighting top 20 guys right away. But if he stays at 85s, I feel like he wants to be like a Donald Cerrone guy. That's what he said in his interview today, that he just wants to, you know, take fights every week and, you know, just do the whole bit. So let him do that, man. The thing is, I feel like he's got a lot of underrated potential. I feel like he's got a lot of athletic tools. I feel like he can do things that other guys can't do. So it's just about, you know, sometimes people have issues with his decision making, but you know, it is what it is. You know, John Jones likes to beat people at their own game too. Not making that comparison, but I'm just saying that sometimes guys fight with their egos a little bit. But the thing is that he didn't take any unnecessary damage. He's not out here like getting his butt whooped and then coming back. Like I thought he controlled that whole fight. So and his opponent was throwing some serious heat at him. So I like what I saw from Kevin Holland tonight. Taylor says the EA game left out Calvin Kattar and Rakic and all these guys. Yeah, and Cheeto Vera, Luque, Bilal Muhammad. So I was actually disappointed to hear that. But hopefully they fix that on that downloadable content. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping to see that be the case for sure. Cloud, what's up, Cloud? He said, you heard it here first. Stipe wins the trilogy, and then it's Ngannou's time to shine. I like the sounds of that. Yeah, I'm curious to, you know, now that this fight card's over, go back, rewatch their 2 fights and see exactly who the better fighter is and take it from there, man, because I don't like the fact that Cormier has been talking retirement, but from memory, and I haven't watched the fight since it happened. I'm going to watch it this week, obviously. But from memory, I feel like wasn't Cormier like controlling most of that rematch and then kind of started tiring? Well, hey, this is a 5-round fight too. You tire here, who knows? Or you could see a different result, maybe a first-round knockout on either side. So, yeah. I know we all hate playing the what-if game, but there's a rumor Stipe retires if he gets the W next Saturday. Oh, yeah? Where'd you hear that? And Cloud's disputing that. He says there's no rumors. He said he's not retiring. Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard him say he's not retiring. So, but I don't know. Maybe if you're from Cleveland or something, you can fill us in on the inside info. Grundy. Yeah, well, we'll say that for next time Grundy fights. Shark says, I want to see Gane versus Jiri. They're in different weight classes, bro. Jiri's 205 and Gane's heavyweight. But yeah, I mean, if they match them up, I'll watch it too. If Jiri wants to take a short notice heavyweight fight, why not? Sparring says, how about the Dennis getting the sub right after he just got his purple belt? Yeah, nice sub. I definitely did not expect that, and it's his first career submission. So solid stuff by him for sure. DB said had Omari by decision plus 500. That last round fucking sucked. That last round did fucking suck. And honestly, the whole fight fucking sucked. Because even in that second round where we won that second round, like, dude, some of those, overhands and left hooks that Omari was winging was way sloppier compared to his other fights. Like, he was trying to force that knockout so bad that he gassed himself out. Plus, Weidman making him carry that weight. It was a combination of a lot of things. But yeah, I definitely agree with you, man. Dry Zero says, I didn't like the way Chris was taking shots in the second. It seemed like he could go down with any shot. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised Omari didn't knock him out. But hey, props to all you guys that say he doesn't have knockout power going into this. The way I viewed it was like, well, yeah, it's easy to say he doesn't have knockout power when he's going in there with guys that are known for iron chins like Marvin Vettori and Zach Cummins and Ian Heinisch, who don't get knocked out by anyone. But tonight, when he went in there with a glass jaw guy and couldn't knock him out, turns out you guys were correct. Taylor says Weidman versus Vettori. Yeah, I mean, you could do something like that. Felipe says Edmund versus Weidman. See, I think that might be the fight to get Edmund back on track, unless he goes past the first round, right? That'd be interesting. But I'm not convinced Weidman can take Edmund's shots. So yeah. Stanley says, I like Chris, but it's time to hang them up. Cardio is so trash. Yeah, I've been thinking it's time to hang him up, but the guy insists that he wants to be the one to dethrone Izzy Adesanya. So have at it, Chris. Brian says Brunson waxes him. That 100% takedown defense is legit. Oh yeah, Brunson does have 100% takedown defense, doesn't he? Daniel said, I bet Akhmadov inside the distance. Same here. He performed better than I thought, but I would pick Brunson at this point, which is not what I would say 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I would have had Weidman there. I agree. Dominic, what's up, Dominic? Dominic, congrats on your win, buddy. My boy Dominic knocked someone out in his MMA debut. Definitely saw it, bro. So look out for Dominic Moreno. He says he's got Brunson all day. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you compare how they both looked in their last two fights, I understand your line of thinking. Dry Zero says, did you see Marvin got offered at top 10 and they turned him down? Yeah, I mean, I saw that tweet, but, I feel like sometimes guys talk a certain way to promote fights. We don't really know. When we say he got offered a top 10 guy, let's look at the whole top 10 right now. Izzy's fighting Paulo, so it was neither of those guys. Robert's fighting Jared, so it was neither of those guys. Maybe Hermanson, but like Hermanson's number 4, so why would he fight number 14? Like, just doesn't make sense. Yoel doesn't really strike me as someone to turn down a fight, so he probably didn't get offered that fight. I think Till's injured, right? Didn't he tear his MCL? And then there's Brunson. So who knows? Brunson's coming off a fight. There's a possibility it was that, or there's Kelvin, Uriah, Edmund. So it's one of those guys. If it's true, there's a chance it's not true though, because these guys talk a lot to get their name out there and stuff. So I'm not really sure, but what I do know is that it's probably going to be a big fight for Marvin Vettori next. Daniel said gassing in the second round was a big red flag. I mean, if we're being honest, his last 7 fights are a big red flag. Talking about Weidman there. Evan says 10 unit max on hack press gets it done. Everything else broke even. Damn, Evan, you should have given me the hot tip on that earlier. Let me know to max bet hack press. But yeah, beautiful play. Definitely was, the max bet was warranted in that spot. So congratulations. Daniel says maybe Chris versus Heinisch. Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, since you bring that up, I want to know y'all's opinion. So when Heinisch got his first, step into the top 10, he lost to Derek Brunson. And he lost to Omari too. But this is a different fight. Y'all think he could beat Chris? Because one thing Ian's known for is that cardio. However, you can't really wrestle on the level of Chris. So how would y'all see that one going down? Shark said, share that Pitolo L with you. I never saw a sub coming in that fight. Yeah, either did I. But, good job by This is MMA, so the element of surprise is in play for anyone, anytime. So, you're allowed to submit people if you're a striker. You're allowed to knock people out if you're a grappler. You're allowed to win by decision if you're a finisher. You're allowed to win by any means necessary. So, nothing but respect to Darren Stewart on that dub. Stewart was plus 1950 by submission. Damn, I wonder if anyone hit that. Dominic says it was a guillotine, no arm in. But, wasn't he, initially it was like a guillotine, but didn't he, finish it, by connecting his hand to the bicep, the finish? Isn't that what happened? I need to see a different angle, because the angle they had, I couldn't really quite see what was going on, but it just seemed to me like it was kind of like in half guard, had the leg trapped, connected to the bicep, so I thought it might have been a Darce, but I need to rewatch. Daniel says that was a beatdown for Yana. Yeah, it was. Yana let her know, hey, welcome back to the UFC. Welcome back to half the battle. Welcome back to after the battle, right? This shit's after the battle now. My boy Shark named the show that. But yeah, I mean, listen, it was armbar or bust for Julia, and Julia did not get the armbar, therefore she lost. Dry Zero says, who should Dariush fight next? Good question. Someone in the top 15 for sure. I mean, look, I really want to see him knock out Hernandez, just because we all know if they fight 10 times that Alex Hernandez, is not on his level. He caught him at a bad time. Flukes happen. It is what it is. And as you saw in Alex Hernandez's subsequent fights, he never looked like that ever again. Benny was going through a tough time, back then. So even though Benny's so fucking beyond a guy like Alex Hernandez, that's why, that fight's not going to happen. He's so beyond that. But, man, I'd love to see him just get some revenge for that one, because we all know he's better than that. But to answer your question, my man, as far as who he should fight next. So when you look at the top 15, and he's number 14, prior to this fight happening. Okay, what about number 9, Ally Quinta? Let's get Ally Quinta out the top 10. I mean, when was the last time Ally Quinta won a fight? Let me actually look that up and see what the answer is. I feel like Ally Quinta is like 1 or 2 fights away from retirement. Oh yeah, he beat Kevin Lee back in 2018. Man, that's one of those situations that, and I hate talking in these terms, but sometimes the better guy doesn't always win. And it's funny, it's funny and almost crazy to say that, because Ally Quinta beat Kevin Lee twice. But man, I still think Kevin Lee's a better fighter than him. So I know that's a kind of an outlandish statement to say. But next for Dariush, let's get Ally Quinta out the top 10. You know what I mean? Assassin MMA says, what do you think of Lewis not getting performance of the night? Were the other fighters more deserving? Well, I think we should look at it this way, man. Derrick Lewis is a heavyweight, and heavyweights get paid heavyweight money. Derrick Lewis has been making 6 figures a fight every single fight for a while now. Whereas when you look at these guys like Darren Stewart, Gavin Tucker, Kevin Holland, Andrew Sanchez, they're not getting paid nearly as much. So this 50K means the world to them. This 50K could potentially change their lives. So I actually agree with the UFC going ahead and giving it to 4 guys that could actually use the money. I mean, Derrick Lewis is rich, bro. He don't need it. And I mean, yeah, great performance. Definitely got to pay him what he's worth, no doubt about it. But those other guys, in my opinion, deserve the bonus more, just on the merit that let them see that kind of money for once, So I'm happy for those 4. Ryan Barton wants to see the Carlos Diego Ferreira rematch for Benny. Was the first time not convincing enough for you? I mean, Benny, if I remember correctly, he 30-27 him in Brazil, and he even took him down to the ground and had some success there too. Daniel says, I can't trust Weidman stand up against a handful of fighters at this point with shooting for his life. Man, I don't trust him against anyone. I still thought it was a sketchy performance despite the result. But again, he did better than I thought, because I thought he was going to be stiff on the canvas looking up at the lights. They're going to have to bring in the smelling salts and, put the flashlight in his eyes. But man, he won the fight. So that's already better than I expected. But yeah, I still think he's a washed up fighter. So I'll definitely be looking to capitalize in his next fight and beyond, because we all know he's not retiring. We all know that ego's too big. We all know that denial is still there. We all know he still thinks he can be a world champion. It's like, Chris, no, you can't. And I don't even like talking like that, because I don't like shitting on people's dreams. I think people should dream big, aspire big, and want to take it all the way to the top. But I also think you should be realistic. Like I was talking about that example with Shogun Rua. Shogun's not out here saying, he wants this John Jones rematch or any shit like that. Shogun's like, hey, I know what point I'm at in my career. That's why I'm out here fighting Paul Craig, John Vellante, Lil Nog Trilogy, Tyson Pedro. Guys that, a couple years ago couldn't even breathe my air. But, Shogun's doing what he's got to do, because he can't hang with the top 5 guys anymore. And quite frankly, Chris Weidman can't either. So, yeah, it's going to – you already know what's going to happen in his next fight when he gets in there with a top 10 guy. Danny Lag says, what up, Dan? What's up, Dan? What up, bro? Nick Rodriguez says, Beneil is the man. Beneil really is the man. He's I think he's one of the most underrated lightweights on the entire roster. And he's a guy, again, no padded record whatsoever. And at one point, I thought he was a top 5 lightweight on planet Earth back when he beat Michael Johnson, who was the number 5 lightweight on planet Earth. We're talking about Michael Johnson back when, he beat Edson Barboza, back when Edson Barboza was a top 5 lightweight on planet Earth, back when Michael Johnson beat Tony Ferguson. So Benny beat that Michael Johnson, the one that they used to call Blackie Al, you know what I mean? So back then, I think that was like 2016, maybe 2015. I thought Benny was top 5 in the world back then. But yeah, he's had some ups and downs, but now he's on a 5-fight win streak. So his resilience is truly great to see. And obviously his well-rounded skill set's always been there. That body kick's always been there. His hands have been there. His world-class jiu-jitsu. And, man, he treated Scotty in a way where, he let him know there's a chance you might not ever sniff that top 15, buddy. If you want to beat a guy like Beneil Dariush, besides that Alex Hernandez fluke, you got to be serious, man. So, yeah, man, it was great to see. It was great to see that. Danny wants to see Dariush versus Charles Dubronx Oliveira. Yeah, I mean, listen, who wouldn't want to see a fight like that? When you talk about guys like Dariush and guys like Oliveira, I mean, remind me the last time either of those guys had a boring fight. You know what I'm saying? So, MMA Dog says, on a crazy cold streak last 6 weeks, how are you doing, my man? Well, tonight didn't go my way. Last event went my way. So just taking it one event at a time. I recommend you do the same. And listen, the good news is that you got fights on Tuesday. But don't force anything. Only if there's an opportunity, take it. But you got fights on Tuesday. You got fights on Saturday. So we're just get back on the horse. That's what you got to do in this game. It's not all sunshines and rainbows. You know what I mean? There's ups and downs too, but overcome them. It's definitely doable. Daniel says, bet on Beneil at -170 and certainly exceeded my expectations. Obviously, no sweat at all. Yeah, I'll tell you this, because I was thinking, I picked Beneil going into the fight, but I was thinking maybe the line's a little too wide. Scotty's a gamer. Scotty's in the best form of his career, but man, the line was actually too short. It was crazy. Benny went out there looking like a -300. He made easy work. He showed Scotty, there are levels to this. If you want to beat me, again, you have to be at a certain place, at a certain level to beat a guy like Beneil Dariush. Big Mouth Holland, definitely impressive performance. Nick Rodriguez, Munoz needs to fight more often. Yeah, I mean, but he was coming off a torn ACL, wasn't he? Alex Munoz. So, yeah, this was his UFC debut, but he took a lot of damage tonight, so he's probably going to be out some months. Go back to the drawing board, heal up, and then come back out there and fight, someone that's kind of, green like he is. He's only 6-1, so let's let him get his feet wet in there. Because I mean, Nasrat's such like a welcome to the UFC type fight. I mean, Nasrat's a guy that broke the case. He knocked out Neto BJJ. He's done a lot of cool shit. So Taylor said, real talk, I know anything is possible, but could you see Benny breaking the top 5 before it's all said and done? Or is that the fanboy in me? I mean, he already broke the top 5 5 years ago, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, because he beat the number 5 guy on planet Earth. But as far as doing it now, let me see who's in the top 5. Khabib, Gaethje, Poirier, T-Ferg, McGregor, Hooker. There's a kind of tough fights for him, but Benny, like, okay, if Benny takes Conor McGregor's back and locks in a choke, do you think Conor gets out, or do you think he taps out, right? But then again, if Conor touches his chin, then what, right? And that fight will never happen. But just pointing out in the top 5 guys that would be interesting, Tony Ferguson versus Dariush is an interesting fight. But I think Dariush needs one more big win before we start talking, top 5 guys. Like if you can be like a Charles do Bronx Oliveira, like my boy Danny suggested, then we can talk about top 5 guys. But he needs that one more big win, because he's coming off a win over Scott Holtzman, which is a fantastic win, and he handled him accordingly. First round knockout, beautiful stuff. But you need that one more big win of a guy in the top 10, then we can talk top 5. So yeah, if he can get past a guy like Charles do Bronx Oliveira or like a Dan Hooker type guy, then we start talking top 5 guys. Daniel says, in a rematch, Beneil likely beats Hernandez. Yeah, I agree. Not only does he beat Hernandez, I think he breaks him. I think he finishes him. I think he shows him that the first time truly was a fluke. And flukes happen. I mean, I'm not going to say, well, Matt Serra knocked out GSP, because I wouldn't want to disrespect someone's accomplishment like that, but flukes happen. Nick Rodriguez says, is it Rodriguez or Rodriguez, my guy? Is that a Brazil shirt you're wearing? With the yellow and the green. But he said, what about that knockout by Sanchez over Turman? That was a scary knockout. His career might be over. I don't think his career is over. He's only like 24 years old, but he needs to take some time off and go back to the drawing board and, realize that his strengths aren't standing and banging. I think that, Wellington got a little carried away in that fight. I think he landed like one hook and then started, pointing to the ground, started telling him to come on. And it's like, Wellington, that's not your game, buddy. You're a jiu-jitsu guy. Try to take his back and take it from there. But when he starts doing this uncharacteristic shit, like trying to bang in the pocket, which isn't really Sanchez's game either. It's just Sanchez is a lot more experienced than you start doing some uncharacteristic shit against a guy like Sanchez, and he's going to capitalize. And that's exactly what he did. So I definitely did not expect a knockout, but I'm also can't say I'm quite surprised based on how Wellington was fighting out there. Wellington was fighting completely uncharacteristic. But I mean, is it really uncharacteristic, or is he just a young kid that's super green that, needs a lot of work, and he was in there with a really seasoned guy? So all the credit to Sanchez on that one. M Tess says, Max betting Merab next week. So it's a good question. Let's look up what John Dodson's takedown defense is real quick. I think that's an important stat to know. Let's see what it says. Because, I mean, we know Merab, his nickname says it all. The guy's a machine. Dodson has 80% takedown defense. Well, let's see. The last time he was taken down. All right, when Nathaniel Wood took him down once, twice by Peter Yan. Pedro Munoz got a takedown. Even Marlon Moraes got a takedown. All right, so he's been taken down his last few fights. So I have reason to believe that he might be taken down here. At the same time, how does Merab respond to one of these, fast little bombs if they happen to connect on his chin? Because I'll say this, Merab doesn't really seem to have much respect for any of his opponent's stand-up, and, he kind of leaves his chin straight up in the air, sometimes takes unnecessary punishment because he can always bail himself out with takedowns. So I'll be curious to see if that's the case here as well. David Zhao says, Benny would have got KO of the night if he made weight. Yeah, I agree. Dry Zero says, what's next for Benny? Again, let's get a top 15 or top 10 opponent, and if he passes that test in impressive fashion, then we can start looking. Then we can start talking top 5. Danny said Holland called out Cerrone on the post show. Yeah, I kind of missed half of that. Did he call him out, or did he say I want to be like Donald Cerrone? I think he said like he's on his way out, and I want to be like the new Cerrone. I might have missed the call out if you said that earlier. But yeah, I mean, I'm down to see that. I don't think they'll make that fight, but yeah, I think Holland would probably win that one. But from what I gather, he said he wants to be the new Cerrone, but I could have missed the whole thing. But either way, I'm excited to see what they do next with him. Taylor says there's no damn reason to shit on Holland's performance. Do look great, and I'd personally like to see him at 170. Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I was very impressed. Like I said, that kid Joaquin was trying to take his head off from the second the bell rang, and he didn't touch him clean at all in the face. And when it was Kevin's time to land, man, did he land? Man, did he make his shots count? And he was so calm, so patient, so relaxed, and was barely breathing by the time the third round started. So definitely like what Kevin Holland's been doing. Daniel said, think he could definitely be a problem at 70s. Yeah, I agree with that. Especially his last two fights, weighed in at like 183, 182. Definitely feel like he could make 70s. And man, he's fucking huge. He's so long. It's going to be a matchup problem for a lot of guys. David says, get that rematch with Giles. I think I heard something about Giles might need, a couple other medical looks. There might be like some heart thing going on. So shout out to Giles. We really hope he's doing all right. Wish him a speedy recovery so that he can get back in there. Dominic said, notice tonight that Nasrat Haqparast's hands are real quick and look great, but seems to have no hip engagement on his punches. Probably why Munoz wore so many. Well, Munoz is still a fresh guy. He's not a chinny guy. He was able to eat some knockout blows that would have knocked out other men. And yeah, I wouldn't write off the power of Nasrat. I think just this kid Munoz, it's fresh meat. You know what I mean? He's only 6-0, so he can still take those shots. He's been beating every single person he's been fighting up until tonight. All right, let's see what else y'all got. Would you parlay Stipe and Sugar Sean? I'm curious about that Sugar Sean fight, because basically what I was asking y'all last week, what happens if Chito Vera takes Sugar Sean to that place that Derek Brunson took Edmund to, because obviously there's a chance Chito can get this first round knockout, but if he doesn't, and Chito's a super durable guy and he's known for, turning up in the second and third round, so the questions I have answered about O'Malley is that his timing, his length, his speed, his boxing for MMA, his shot selection is all very, very impressive. And, those boxes are all checked. But what about the heart? What about the grappling? What about the conditioning? Because I'll say this, the two times we did see O'Malley go past the first round, shit did get kind of sketchy. Let's be honest here. The Terrion Ware fight, didn't Terrion Ware go out there and win the second round? Wasn't Terrion Ware kind of backing him up and, teeing off for a little bit there? But the thing is, Terrion Ware can't finish fights. Terrion Ware went 0-3 in the UFC or something. So what would happen if Chito starts teeing off on him? Also, the Andre Sukumtut fight, I know he broke his leg, but still, Chito Vera gets on top of him. Chito Vera isn't going to do some dumb stuff like Andre Sukumtut did. So I'm very curious about that matchup. And also, he's not washed up like Eddie Wineland. So, look, I'm not saying that Sean can't knock him out. He's a minus 300 favorite. People are saying, or the books are saying he's going to get a first round knockout. So if that happens, it happens. It's just I've seen Chito Vera fight John Lineker for 3 rounds, eat his shots, and not get knocked out. So we'll see what happens. At a line like this, it'll be interesting because Chito's going to at least try to fight for your money. So I'm very curious to see what happens if you can get this to the second and third round. And maybe O'Malley can maintain that same output for all 3 rounds. That's what I'm so curious to see. How's the rest of his game? I just need some answers. That's all. I'm not discounting the possibility. I just want to see it for myself. You know what I'm saying? Alonzo said, God of War versus Yan after he finishes Cody. That Cody fight's really good, man. That Cody fight is really good. I mean, yeah, he probably does finish Cody. Dropping to 25, that's just when I bet on Cejudo to beat TJ at plus 180 odds, it's dude, when you dropped it to 25, you're at the brink of your body fat, and it's just a different weight class, a different speed. And Cody's known for his speed, but at flyweight, it's a different kind of speed. So I'd actually be curious to see what happens if Cody can avoid getting knocked out in the first 2 rounds and can kind of extend the fight. Then it'd get kind of interesting. But that's going to take a lot to get to that point. Shark says Tucker versus James was an awesome back and forth fight. Great scramble and jiu-jitsu display. Yeah, that fight was actually really important for me to see because it finally showed me that, Tucker, I had questions about like what happens if Tucker gets dropped in a fight. Can he come back and win? And tonight he answered that yes, he can. So he proved a lot to me tonight. Very clean performance after that knockdown. Really took over the fight. Just showed that like you better have more than 1 round cardio if you're going in there against a guy like Gavin Tucker at this point in his current form. And, to exercise the demons of overcoming that brutal loss to Rick Land and bouncing back, taking the time off and bouncing back the way he did with 2 consecutive finishes. Because I remember after that Cecilia fight, people were talking like this guy might be a future top 15 guy. And I think tonight he proved that he's definitely got the skills, but now we got to see how he performs against, a step up in competition. But at the same time, he's still only 3-1 in the UFC. So how quick do you want to rush him? I mean, should we do the Yusuf Zalal fight, 3-0 versus 3-1? Or do you kind of think he's beyond that? Because when you talk about top 15, I saw some people saying he might be a top 15 guy right now. It's like, how do you think he'd do against Shane Burgos, right? So that's – and Shane Burgos is kind of towards the end of the top 15. So if you think he can pass that test, then maybe he is a top 15 guy. But, like, you got to be ready to swim with the sharks. If you're getting dropped by this random guy, Justin James – what'll happen when a guy like Shane Burgos fights you? So I'm curious because Gavin Tucker's definitely got a lot of skills. That no questions asked there. So we'll definitely be keeping our eye on him for sure. John says, I know you don't bet over under props, but what you say, Stipe Cormier over 2.5 rounds. What's the odds on that? But I'm not really sure because I feel like that fight could go so many different ways. So I don't know. I like unders if they're under 4.5. I feel like those are the best unders for me. Taylor says the Apex cage definitely benefits both Cormier and Paulo Costa. Changed my mind. No, I'm not going to attempt to change your mind. That's a curious point. Definitely curious how those fights play out. Bernardo says, who do you think Weidman wins in the rankings? Me, nobody. Well, he beat Omari tonight, who's number 11, but and he beat Kelvin, who's in there, but I don't know if he beats Kelvin in a rematch. But let's take a look. I still want that Weidman and Hermanson fight. Maybe they can give me that Weidman Hermanson fight finally, so I can fucking max bet Hermanson like I've been wanting to do this whole time. This fight's been booked. I've been wanting the Weidman Hermanson fight for a long time, so maybe they can give me that. But to answer your question, so out of the top 15, okay. Izzy, no. Whitaker, no. Costa, no. Cannonier, no. Hermanson, no. Yoel already knocked him out. Till, probably not. Brunson, interesting fight. Kelvin, he beat. Uriah Hall, he beat back in the day. Edmund Shabazian, interesting fight. Omari, he beat tonight. And then these other guys, Brad Tavares, I like Brad, but I don't really think he's top 15 anymore. Heinisch, that's interesting. Marvin Vittori, that's interesting. And then Carlos Jr., that might actually be a winnable fight for Weidman, but I don't really think Carlos Jr. is a top 15 guy, even though officially it says he is. Brian says, what are we doing with Zalal? Taking it slow with Zalal. He's only 3-0. Showed some good stuff tonight. He shows some good stuff every night, but I still feel like, the kid, 23 years old? Let's take it slow with him still. And I'm curious to see if he stays at featherweight or if he decides to move back to bantamweight. Do you want to do the Gavin Tucker showdown, or is that too much for a kid like Zalal? And real quick, did y'all see my tweet? Zalal's 2020 compared to our 2020. Like, Zalal's had the best 2020 ever. The kid's 3-0 in the UFC. Yeah, there's a lot of options you can do. Billy Q is out there. That's a fun fight. Jamal Emmers versus Yusuf Zalal. Is that a good fight? Y'all like that? There's if you want to give him another win, you can put him in there with that Nathan Manis kid. There's definitely a lot of options for Yusuf Zalal. SC for all says Dominic probably looked way better in his fight when compared to Weidman's performance against Omari. Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. Just let me know if I'm still here because I exited for a second, so I want to make sure that I'm still on this thing. But let me scroll back up. Okay. So Alonzo says Vittori is the real deal. He is a legit top 10. Hey, he went to a split decision with the champion. So, okay, cool. Sandro says I'm still here. Fuck yeah. Awesome. That's actually really cool that they didn't stop the broadcast even with me leaving for a second because I normally back in the what was the old one? Google Hangouts. Y'all remember the Google Hangouts days? Back then they'd like end the broadcast. And you want to know some other shit too? That's kind of funny now looking back at it. So when you're doing these live streams, prior to you hitting go live, you can still see yourself on the camera. And if like you have guests, y'all can have a conversation. And then when you're ready to go live, you press live. So one time, I did one of these videos, right? And I pressed live, welcome back to Half the Battle, the whole bit, post the video. And these fucking guys at Google Hangouts captured my conversation prior to me pressing go live. And thank God we weren't talking about any secrets, or we didn't say any shit that would get us in trouble. But yeah, they were actually recording our conversation before I even pressed go live. So I wonder if StreamYard's on that same shit. I wonder if they were secretly recording me before this. Anyways, Taylor Ramsey said Heinisch versus Weidman could be fun. Could be. Again, it'd be the cardio of Heinisch versus the wrestling of Weidman. Troy said he parlayed Jury, Chandler, Nasrat, and Holland. Also took Beneil and Yana. Man, you're a parlay machine. You had how many legs there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Damn. Good job, buddy. Dry says, I struggle to see Chris beating a lot of the top 15. Yeah, I struggle. I mean, I struggle to see him winning tonight, and he went out there and won. But yeah, I agree with you. Nick says Patola should have kept it standing. I mean, man, but the thing is, Stewart gets taken down every fight. Just again, Stewart caught him with that element of surprise on that choke. That was a beautiful thing. So I think more so than keep it standing, which, by the way, he did have success when he rocked him with that shot. I think more so than that, how about don't leave your fucking head exposed when you shoot for a takedown? Like, let's work on our offensive takedowns. He probably thought Stewart's takedown defense is so bad that, I don't even need to protect my neck, which is a huge day one mistake. So, yeah, I bet that's something he's going to address in the training room, not leaving your head exposed when you shoot for those takedowns. MMA KO says Beneil has been pure gangster since getting rocket launched by Edson. He's been pure gangster his entire career. It's just, in this career, when you have 18 UFC fights, there's going to be ups and downs. You already know the deal. All our favorite fighters, have lost fights before besides, Jones and Khabib, which if they stick around long enough, they will lose fights too. So, yeah, it's just really how Beneil fights that really makes me admire him so much. And obviously his personality is great, the stuff he does outside the cage. I mean, this guy was like, I remember after the Michael Johnson fight, didn't he like go to Africa the next day to like help out the kids and like build like water like related things? Like he's a badass. JP says, do you think they line Weidman as a favorite versus Ian? They probably do. Taylor says, I'd be curious to see if Weidman continues to implement wrestling in future bouts. That's his only. Yeah, of course he does. That's his bread and butter. I mean, he can't stand for too long, and especially once he starts to gas out a little bit. Nick says Julia's Fade City from now on. Yeah, she's probably gonna get cut. It's probably gonna get one more fight. It's gonna be an unfavorable matchup. They're gonna do her like they did Vanessa Mello. Just give her tough matchups. She'll be a dog every single fight. She'll also lose every single fight, unless she gets like a fluke armbar. But you already know. DB says my 5-unit max bet on Yana was an easy one. Pretty stoked about that. Love fading the sub or bust fighter, especially in women's MMA. Hey, when it works, it works. But when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like Belbita, she lost to the sub or bust fighter a couple weeks back. So it's definitely hit or miss. But tonight, it went your way. So I'm happy for you, man. Shark says it's definitely after the battle. Yeah, it definitely is after the battle. Ryan says Benny versus Carlos Diego. Like I said, man, they already fought once, and it was pretty decisive for Benny. So I don't really need to see I don't really see a need to see it again. And I think there's exciting fights for both of them. Like, let them clear out the old guys. Like, get Ally Kinna out the top 15. Like, get let's see who else is in the top 15 that don't need to be there anymore. Thank God they got rid of Alex Hernandez. But like Kevin Lee, I like Kevin Lee a lot. He's a funny guy, but he's going to be out for like a year with 2 blown ACL. So let's get him out the rankings. Gregor Gillespie, I know he's got a lot of potential and people like him a lot, but like, what top 15 guys he beat to be ranked? So there's some guys that need to be weeded out the top 15, in my personal opinion. Daniel says, what do you think of the Figgy versus Garbrandt fight? My boy Davey God of War is back defending that belt against the former bantamweight champion, Cody Garbrandt. I think it's a hell of a fight. I think they're going to stand and bang until one man falls. And Cody has fell a couple times, but, Cody's also a championship-level fighter. He knows what it's like to hold a belt. He knows what it's like to be in UFC title fights. Now he's probably got a little more confidence under his belt. But, again, it all comes down to how's that weight cut. For a guy that already had a suspect chin, cutting, those extra 10 pounds, and this isn't just any 10 pounds. The cut to flyweight is one of the most notorious weight cuts in all of combat sports. So curious to see how it goes. And then you take that into consideration, the hardest hitter in flyweight history, Davison, Davey God of War Figueredo. On paper, Davison's definitely the favorite. So we'll see what happens. Dominic Moreno says Stuart's sub was similar to what they call the ninja choke. Yeah, it was. Taylor says, best tweet tonight I saw was, Derrick, I got to take a shit, Lewis. Derrick's a funny guy. I love his post-fight speeches, man. He's definitely someone we all love to watch fight and speak. The Ball D says, I like that Dariush versus Al fight. We need Al out the top 10. I know, man. I've been saying it for a while. Joel says, thanks for the post-fight content, mate. Much love from Australia. Appreciate that, man. Much love back to you. My sister lives in Australia, so I got love down under, my man. Taylor says, Beneil is the man of the night, both in the cage and on social media. Am I right or am I right? You're right. I just wish he could have made weight so he would get that 50K. But again, for a guy like Benny to miss weight, it means something must have gone wrong. He must have been a miscalculation, or maybe his scale said he made weight, but then the official scale said he didn't. I know a guy like Benny ain't trying to get some, unfair advantage. Always Bond Point said Johnson got terribly robbed against Beneil. I disagree. And that's actually been one I've always disagreed with, because I know people say that fight's a robbery, but like if you watch it, like Johnson's swinging at air most of the time, and he's got his head popped back with those jabs, ate some big leg kicks. I thought Beneil edged it. I actually happened to be at that fight. Nick Rodriguez says, what fights are on Tuesday, Dan? Dana White, Tuesday night contender, my man. Where you been? Daniel says, Staropoli let me down, but Means fought smart. Why did Staropoli show up 174.5, man? Like, that was I was very surprised he showed up a little fat. He's a tough guy, from Argentina, never gave up. But, yeah, Means is so much more experienced, and Means hung in there, delivered a vintage performance, and definitely tried to come out there with a wrestling-heavy game plan, but then once he kind of slowed Laureano down, then he was able to get down on those clean, straight punches that he's known for. The hand fighting has always been on point. Dropped him with the head kick. Good to see Tim Means get a W, man. We always root for vets of the game like that. MMA Dog says, I know you don't ever talk steroids unless there's a positive test to back it up, but have you noticed some ultra physiques during this USADA COVID era? A lot of washed fighters ending losing skids. Yeah, I heard they haven't been testing as much during this era. So coincidence or not? That's an interesting point. All right, let's see what else y'all got for me. Nick Rodriguez says, what about the strength difference between Merab and Dotson? Does Dotson have guillotines? Dotson ain't going to submit Merab. I'll tell you that right now. If Dotson's going to win, it's probably going to have to be a knockout. I mean, Dotson hits hard. And Merab doesn't really respect any of his opponents. So I keep dropping my bottle cap. But, yeah, so we'll see. Jeff says, what was more impressive than Nasrat's hands was him stuffing those takedowns. Great improvements. Yeah, I know. Alex was actually able to get a takedown early on, and Nasrat was able to get back up and then stuff the rest of them. So big improvement on his part, especially compared to the last time we saw him grapple in the octagon. So step in the right direction, no questions asked. Taylor says UFC 252. Lots of cats seem amped for the co-main event. Am I the only guy who's more amped to see what Cheeto can do versus what O'Malley can do? Yeah, I mean, just that fight in general. We want to see what both guys can do. It's a lot of questions are going to be answered in that fight. Abu Dhabi says, is Akhmadov the first guy who's not a legit Dagestani? Maybe his dad was an engineer or some shit and didn't grow up as hungry as other Dagestanis. Several middleweights would have finished Weidman in that situation. Yeah, several guys would have, man. I think he blew his load, you know. He was exaggerating with those hooks. Like the takedown attempts, like the first couple, he was shooting from far out, man. Like yeah, he kind of did some mistakes he's got to fix. You know, man, you saw the fight, you know the deal. So hopefully he goes back to the drawing board and fixes that, because that was a very winnable fight. I mean, you had a completely washed up fighter in front of you and you couldn't put him away. So yeah, it's a bad look in my opinion. Taylor says, does O'Malley have the same star power that McGregor does? No. He's definitely a star, but McGregor is a different level. McGregor captivates you. Like, not that O'Malley doesn't, but like when McGregor was on his come up, like you'd want to hear every single thing that dude had to say. And I don't see O'Malley winning 2 belts in 2 weight classes. I could be wrong. You know, we'll see what happens. But no, I personally don't think he has that star power McGregor does. But I definitely think he's got star potential. No questions asked. He already is a star. Daniel says he would confidently pick Hermanson and he would line at minus 230. Well, hopefully they're not listening to what you're saying, because we need a good price on Hermanson. Humble Pie says, big up half the battle. I had every fight right this week. Weidman is done out here. Heavyweight cardio. Yeah, I wish he was a little more done, so I could have cashed a dog money bet on Omari, but it is what it is. Michael says, pump the brakes. Dotson, the hardest hitting, 125. Yeah, I mean, he just knocked out a 35er those last fight. He knocked out Nathaniel Wood. He's also knocked out TJ Dillashaw 35s before, so the guy can definitely crack. Gotta give at least you gotta give that to him. Dotson hits very, very hard. Pineapple says, who you got, JDS or Rosenstrike next week? He elects Rosenstrike by KO. If that Ngannou fight never happened, I'd definitely like Rosenstrike. Both guys coming off losses, I'm pretty sure. Man, JDS hasn't looked that good in a while. Just depends how Rosenstrike responds to taking this first loss. Like, does it like, you know, whether his confidence at all, does it diminish it to a point where yeah, I don't know. Because like that Ngannou, like the dude died against Ngannou, you know what I mean? So like, how does he bounce back? But I still think his chin probably has a little more than JDS's does. It's just, is his confidence completely diminished, you know, and you got to pay a slight chalk price. So I got a lot of questions, but yeah, I would definitely lean that side too. I think he has looked better than JDS, but it's an interesting fight for sure. All right, hold on. I think that's all the questions y'all got for me. If y'all got anything else, let me know. I'm getting ready to wrap this thing up. Really appreciate y'all joining me. Let me see if there's any fights I missed. Erwin Rivera, you know, good job, Erwin. We talked about Yusuf. We talked about Gavin, Andrew Sanchez, Nasrat, Holland, Means. Man, I'm surprised we covered the whole card already. Y'all, this is a lot of fun. Time flies when you're having fun, isn't that right? So last call for questions, and then I'm dipping out of here. Appreciate y'all joining me again. This has become a fun thing. We might have to do this regularly. And I keep saying we might have to, even though we keep doing it regularly. That's the only way to do things, is to do them regularly and be consistent. And that's how you grow things. So maybe we should make this the official post-fight show for everyone. You know what I'm saying? Do this every single week. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to 252. It's going to be a really exciting card. All right. Last bit of questions. What happened to the Giga versus Alex fight? It got booked for a different card. Sandro says Merab versus Dotson. It seems like Merab hasn't really won against anyone good. What's your pick? Pre-tape, it's Merab, but I got to watch the tape and see it. I think he might, you know, kind of big brother him and stuff, but I also remember Merab doesn't respect his opponent's stand-up a lot and gets hit with a lot of unnecessary shots and you can't get hit with too many unnecessary ones against a guy like Dodson. So it's interesting. Sensei says Dodson was really the only one to knock down Yan. Also, if I remember, yeah, he knocked him down. That's just facts. I think he wobbled Marlon Moraes as well too. Knocked out TJ Dillashaw. Drops a lot of guys. So there's definitely truth to what you are saying, my man. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. I truly appreciate y'all joining me. I'll be back later this week with Half the Battle. Make sure y'all check out my other show, Line Movement MMA Betting Show with Dan Tom. I've really enjoyed doing that with Dan Tom. It's been awesome. And then Half the Battle with me and Shaq to break down UFC 252. And then after the battle, after the fight, going to go live again for y'all. So I really appreciate y'all joining me so very, very much. Thank you all so, so much. Truly appreciate all your support. And y'all know where to follow me. Y'all know where all my shit's at. So thank you for supporting me through all these times. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.